much do you need to save for retirement? And is saving 15% of your gross income enough to get you to retirement? Hey, my name is Drew Blackston. I'm a certified retirement counselor, investment advisor representative, and I'm your virtual financial advisor, helping you get to retirement, helping you get through retirement, and protecting your ability to stay in retirement. We're talking about planning for retirement and how much do you need to save for retirement. And I want to look at one of the age-old rules when saving for retirement, which is save 15% of your gross income. And if you do that, you will have enough saved for retirement. I hear this from all kinds of financial professionals. Dave Ramsey is a big proponent of saving 15% of your gross income for retirement. So I want to put that strategy to the test. Is that enough to get you to retirement? First, let's talk about how you can save for retirement. Well, there's a couple rules that you want to consider when thinking about retirement. The first rule you want to think about is called the 25X rule. And what the 25X rule says is that you need to save at least 25 times your annual expenses in order to retire. So let's say your annual expenses are $50,000 a year. So we have $50,000 of annual expenses. We're going to multiply that by 25, and that is how much we need to have saved in retirement accounts. I've lost my calculator. Hold on. All right. So we have $50,000. We're going to multiply that by 25. That's $1.25 million. So what the 25X rule says, if you're going to retire today and your annual expenses are $50,000 a year, you need to have $1.2 million saved for retirement. Now, I like to take it a step further. This is expenses. I also like to look at our income. So let's say that your annual income right now is $65,000. You multiply that by 25. So we'll take 65, we're going to multiply that by 25. That's $1,625,000. So the 25X rule using income says you need somewhere between 1.6 and 1.2 for expenses saved for retirement if you're going to retire today. Now, what does the 25X rule not take into account? The 25X rule does not take into account Social Security. Remember, Social Security is going to be a form of guaranteed income that you're going to get in retirement. Now, the first eligible age that you can claim Social Security is 62. If you do that, you'll get 70% of your full retirement benefit. If you wait until 67 to claim Social Security, you'll get 100% of your full retirement benefit. And if you wait to 70, you'll get 124% of your full retirement benefit. So the 25X rule doesn't take into account your Social Security income. It really just takes into account, hey, I'm going to retire, this is how much I need. All the other factors are set aside. The 25X rule also doesn't take into account any pensions. Maybe you were in the armed services. Maybe you work for the county, the state, the national government, and you get a pension. Well, the 25X rule doesn't take into account any pensions. So you've really got to be cognizant of, okay, am I saving enough for retirement? How do I save more for retirement? Should I save more for retirement? And there's a lot of different factors that go into that. Another rule to consider when saving for retirement is called the replacement ratio. Now, what the replacement ratio is you take your income or your expenses, whichever one you prefer, and you put a replacement ratio on that for retirement. Let me give you an easy example. Let's say that your annual income is $100,000. The replacement ratio says take 80% of that because that's what you're going to need in retirement income. So 80% of $100,000 would be $80,000 in income. So what you're trying to do in retirement is replace your annual income with 80% of that using Social Security, pensions, and your retirement investing accounts. Now, the replacement ratio has been revised based on new data that instead of 80%, it's more like 60%. And the average retiree spends about 1.8% less per year in retirement. Now, what the replacement ratio does not consider, it's a big factor you've got to think about, so I'm going to star it, is inflation. So the replacement ratio is just saying, hey, this is how much retirement income you're going to need in retirement, and you need to base your retirement assets off this income. But what we're saying is we don't consider inflation with the replacement ratio. And I like to call this reversed sequence of return risk. Sequence of return risk is the risk that when you go into retirement, that your assets will fall based on the stock market losses for the first 3 years, right? Think about the year 2000. The market was down from 2000 to 2001, 01 to 02, and 02 to 03. The market fell for those 3 years. So if you retired in 2000, your sequence of return risk was very high because you had a loss on your retirement investing accounts for 3 straight years. What I'm seeing is that it's basically a reverse, and it's a sequence of return risk on your income. What that means is for the early part of your retirement, inflation is high, and so instead of it being $80,000, it's actually higher than that for multiple years because inflation is running hot. So the replacement ratio is a great way, it's a great rule of thumb, but it doesn't take into account inflation, which is a huge factor in your retirement. All right, the last rule of thumb to think about when you're doing retirement planning, or how much do I need to save for retirement, is your income, your retirement income. And I like to segregate it into 2 factors. You want to think about your guaranteed income versus your needed income. And what do I mean by guaranteed versus needed? When you're trying to figure out how much in retirement assets do I need to save, how much retirement income am I going to take off my retirement assets, and we're getting ready to look at, is saving 15% enough for retirement? We're going to do an Excel spreadsheet to show you that here in just a second. But you want to think about your income in the sense of, okay, what income is going to be guaranteed and what income is going to be needed? So let's look at this. On the guaranteed side, you have things like Social Security. So I know Social Security is guaranteed. Now, obviously, there's some changes that need to happen to the Social Security trust. There needs to be more money in that. But for this video, let's assume Social Security is guaranteed for your retirement. Again, maybe you have a pension. Pensions are guaranteed. Maybe you work for the military or the federal government, the state, city, whatever. Pensions are guaranteed income. Maybe you have an annuity payment and you have a guaranteed lifetime income rider or a guaranteed lifetime income payment on your annuity. Those are your guaranteed incomes. So when we're factoring in how much retirement income needs to come off of our retirement investment accounts, these kind of things can be stripped away and we can lessen the burden that's coming off of our retirement investments because we have these 3 that are guaranteed. Remember, we've got to always think about inflation, sequence of return risk, things like that, but at least we know these are guaranteed. These are our cornerstone incomes. Now, needed is going to be how much do we need to take off of our retirement investments. So this is money that's coming off of our retirement investing accounts. So this might be 2 to 3% that you need over and above your Social Security, your pension, or your annuities in order to live day to day. Now, also on the needed side is going to be any extra income that needs to come off. So maybe for vacations, for for a child's wedding, for a home renovation, for a second home or a vacation condo, whatever, you need to be thinking about my extra income is going to come from the needed side. So there's a lot of different factors when you're thinking about retirement income and saving for retirement. Let's get into now, is 15% enough to get us to retirement? All right, let's look at, is saving 15% of your gross income enough to save for retirement? So let's look at this Excel spreadsheet. Now, we created this to help clients understand, are they saving enough for retirement? And we just look at a geometric return. So we're going to look at 6% and 8% over the long term to determine, hey, are we saving enough for retirement? So let's look at this real quick. So here we've got our age, we've got how many years are between the decades, we've got our salary, we have our beginning value, we have our contribution, which is 15%. Remember, we're asking the question, is 15% of our gross income saved for retirement enough? We have the ending value from that decade, and we have the rates of return. We're going to look at 6% and we're going to look at 8%. Now, what I did for this video was I took the average salary for a 25-year-old, an average salary for a 35-year-old, the average salary for a 45-year-old, and the average salary for a 55-year-old. This is a single individual. These numbers can be doubled if you have two spouses or two partners working. And so I'm just looking at a single individual asking the question, am I saving enough for retirement with just 15% of my gross income? Because that's what you hear when you think about financial experts. I always think about Dave Ramsey. That's who I grew up with at church, Financial Peace University. Dave always says save 15%. So as a financial advisor, I want to know, is that correct? So let's look at this. At age 25, we got 10 years between 25 and 35. Our average salary is $36,000, and at 25, we have zero saved for retirement. We're doing a contribution of $5,400 per year. It's getting a 6% rate of return. At the end of those 10 years, we'll have $71,176 saved, earning 6%. So at age 35, we get a raise from 36 to 51. Again, we've got $71,000 in retirement savings. Now our contribution is $76.50 because we're doing 15% of $51,000. So at the end of 10 years, our $71,000 in retirement savings grows to $28,000. So we jump 10 years, now we're 45, right? Our salary increases to $60,000. That's the average salary for a 45-year-old today. Our beginning retirement savings balance is $228,000, and we're doing a $9,000 contribution. That's 15% of $60,000. At the end of that decade, from 45 to 55, we'll have $527,474 in retirement savings as long as we're earning 6% a year. Okay? Now, at age 55, we've reached that pinnacle. We've reached that runway. We're almost ready to retire. We've got $527,000 in retirement savings. Our salary's only increased about $1,000, so there's not a real big difference between age 45 and age 55 average salary. And our contribution has increased by $150 per year. At the end of that 10 years, 55 to 65, we have $1,065,230 earning 6%. So I would ask the question, hey, can I retire at 65 with $1 million? Probably would be a video where you would say, hey Drew, yes, of course I can. Because at 65, now we're starting to look at Social Security, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 5 years, depending on when we want to take it. So at $1 million, we can make that last throughout retirement. If we have two spouses that are working, maybe we have $2 million at that point. So saving 15% of your gross income, earning 6%, working from 25 to 65, yeah, you can retire. Let's look at 8%, because 8% is even better. So look at this. So here's the same scenario, same incomes, now we're earning 8% a year. At the end of our working career, we've got $1.7 million. $1.7 million. And 8% is not out of the question when it comes to rates of return on your market money. The stock market, since like the 1900s, has averaged 10%. 8% with inflation. Remember what we've been through since the 1900s? We've been through 2 world wars. We've had presidents assassinated. We've been through 2 pandemics since the 1900s. We've had the gold standard removed. We've had all kinds of geopolitical crises. We've had political crises at home. We've had good presidents, bad presidents. And the market's averaged 8%. So I am going to go under the assumption that the next 100 years, we're still going to be able to earn 8%. And if you do that, you'll have $1.7 million, contributing 15% of your gross income every year. Hey, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.